Picture yourself opening your refrigerator one morning and discovering absolutely nothing inside. Not because you neglected grocery shopping, but because the store is shuttered, the provisions are depleted, the water supply has been terminated, and you cannot venture outside. At that moment, currency cannot purchase you additional provisions. The only thing that maintains your composure is what you arranged beforehand. The error most individuals commit is accumulating food only to discard it with their own hands several years later because it expired. But there are provisions that, if preserved properly, never deteriorate. Not for just 1 or 2 years, but long enough to nourish an entire household through any crisis. Today we're discussing 12 provisions that never expire, why they're immortal, and how to preserve them so they actually rescue you when needed. They're not just provisions for emergencies. They are survival, they are duration, they are nutritional insurance for your household. Are you ready to discover provisions that outlast the individuals who consume them? 1. Bottled purified water. Among all emergency provisions, water always ranks number 1. You can survive without provisions for weeks, but without water for just 3 days, your body will collapse and every other provision source becomes meaningless. That's why everyone from the military and rescue organizations to households preparing for crisis treats water as the first priority. Chemically speaking, water does not deteriorate over duration. It contains no sugar, no protein, and no environment for bacteria to grow. That's why regulatory agencies do not even require bottled water companies to print expiration dates on their labels. Water does not degrade, but the container holding it can. The most common error is preserving water in hot places like garages, vehicle trunks, patios, or sheds with direct sunlight. When plastic bottles are exposed to high temperatures, especially above 30 degrees Celsius, the plastic begins to break down and release microplastics, harmful chemicals, and other toxic substances into the water. The water still looks clear, has no smell, and no strange taste, but it has already been contaminated with substances you can't detect with the naked eye. Research shows that after just a few weeks in a hot environment, the amount of microplastics in water increases many times compared to bottles preserved in cool places. That means the water doesn't deteriorate, but it can become toxic if preserved incorrectly. To make water truly limitless, keep it in a cool place below 25 degrees Celsius. Avoid heat and sunlight, and don't preserve it near gasoline or strong-smelling chemicals. For long-duration preservation, glass bottles or steel containers are better choices. If bottles are swollen, leaking, have a plastic smell, or taste strange, discard them. Accumulating water is not an act of fear. It is the calm preparation for situations that can happen at any time. Where are you preserving your water? Inside a cool house or in a hot garage? 2. Pure salt, non-iodized. In the world of long-duration provision preservation, salt is a silent gatekeeper. It doesn't just make provisions tasty. It protects entire provision reserves by inhibiting bacteria. Long before refrigerators existed, individuals relied on salt to preserve meat, fish, and vegetables, and to this day, that role has not changed. Salt is so durable that it is nearly immortal because it is a mineral sodium chloride with no protein, no fat, no sugar, and no moisture. No nutrients, no environment for bacteria to exist. Its very nature of not being able to sustain anything makes salt unable to deteriorate, mold, or rot over duration. It needs no refrigeration, no vacuum sealing, just leave it alone. However, this is only true when you preserve pure salt without iodine and without additives. Salt with iodine or anti-caking agents is still edible, but it can change color, absorb odors, or develop strange flavors over duration, because those added ingredients are more likely to degrade. Pure salt, such as sea salt, kosher salt, and pink rock salt, is the correct choice for long-duration preservation. Many individuals make the error of using oxygen absorbers or vacuum sealing for salt. Not only is that useless, but it can also trap moisture, causing the salt to harden into solid clumps. It's not dangerous, but it causes inconvenience and reduces purity. Salt only needs to be preserved in a dry place, sealed tightly, and kept away from direct sunlight. And when necessary, it does more than season provisions. It preserves provisions, aids in disinfecting wounds, makes pickles, and creates electrolyte solutions when combined with sugar. How is your salt being preserved? In a sealed jar, a regular bag, or still mixed in with spice packets on the kitchen shelf? 3. White sugar. If salt pulls out water to eliminate bacteria, then white sugar does the opposite. It traps water tightly in its structure, preventing microorganisms from using it, from multiplying, and eventually they starve to death. It sounds strange, but this mechanism is exactly why white sugar becomes one of the longest-lasting provisions in any preservation pantry. The nature of sugar is pure sucrose with no protein, no fat, and no free water. Bacteria can't consume it. Mold can't grow on it. And oxygen has almost no effect on sugar's structure. This means sugar doesn't need refrigeration, doesn't need vacuum sealing, and certainly doesn't need preservatives. The only thing that can make sugar difficult to use is moisture. When it absorbs moisture, it clumps into hard blocks, but it doesn't deteriorate. It only changes shape. Drying it or lightly heating it to remove moisture will return it to normal. Many individuals accidentally make sugar age faster by preserving it with oxygen absorbers. Sugar doesn't need protection from oxygen. It's the oxygen absorber that traps moisture and causes sugar to harden more quickly. Additionally, preserving sugar near strong-smelling spices like curry, pepper, garlic is also a common error because sugar absorbs odors very easily and loses its quality in cooking. Sugar only needs one thing to live indefinitely: dryness. When dry, sugar is not just a sweetener. It can also help disinfect wounds when mixed with salt, make oral rehydration solutions, preserve fruits into jam or syrup, and provide quick energy for someone who is exhausted. A properly preserved bag of sugar is not only for cooking, but for protecting health during times when it feels like there's nothing left to rely on. Are you preserving sugar in a dry, sealed place, or still keeping it together with strongly scented spices? 4. Pure honey. If sugar is a long-lasting energy source, then honey is the upgraded version. It nourishes the body, acts as a preservative, and can even serve as medicine in times of scarcity. Honey has been found in ancient tombs more than 3,000 years old and was still usable. This is not a myth, it's science. Honey doesn't deteriorate because it contains almost no free water. The water in honey is locked by sugar, preventing bacteria from using it to survive. Its low pH acidity further creates an environment unsuitable for molds and microorganisms. In other words, honey's structure doesn't allow any life to exist inside it. But this is only true if it is pure honey. Honey diluted with syrup or water can ferment, change smell, or form bubbles over duration. Another common error is assuming crystallized honey is deteriorated. On the contrary, crystallization is a natural behavior of sugar. Just warm it gently and it will return to liquid form. Honey doesn't need refrigeration or vacuum sealing. The one thing that can ruin honey is water getting inside the jar. Just a few drops are enough to activate natural enzymes and cause fermentation. So all it needs is a cool place, a tight lid, and no water contact. In times of scarcity, honey is not just a sweet treat. It can disinfect minor wounds, preserve fruits, provide quick energy for someone exhausted, for the elderly, or for children who haven't had a meal yet. Preserving honey is not about having something tasty, but about having a provision that lasts longer than a refrigerator, reliable when every convenience suddenly becomes a luxury. Do you know how to distinguish real honey from diluted honey? What methods do individuals usually employ? 5. White vinegar, distilled vinegar. If honey is something that can be consumed and heal, then white vinegar is a provision that can preserve and sanitize. Many individuals only perceive vinegar as a kitchen seasoning, but in long-duration preservation, white vinegar plays the role of a survival tool. It protects provisions, protects the living environment, and indirectly protects health. White vinegar lasts for a long duration because it has strong acidity, and its low pH prevents bacteria from developing in its solution. The acetic acid in vinegar not only creates a sour taste, but also destroys the cellular structure of microorganisms, preventing them from existing. Because of this, vinegar does not rot or develop strange odors over duration like provisions, and it does not need refrigeration or vacuum sealing. But for vinegar to truly never expire, the important thing is choosing the right type. Many individuals confuse pure white vinegar with vinegar mixed with sugar, fermented vinegar containing fruit flavorings, or artificial coloring. These mixed vinegars can deteriorate over duration because sugar and organic compounds provide nutrients for microorganisms. Distilled white vinegar is the only type that can last because it contains a strong enough acid concentration, is free of impurities, and does not feed any bacteria. Vinegar does not require complicated preservation. It only needs to be kept in a cool place away from direct sunlight and sealed tightly to prevent evaporation. The only thing that can reduce the value of vinegar is leaving the lid open too long, causing acid to slowly evaporate and making the vinegar weaker over duration. It doesn't deteriorate, but it loses its preserving and disinfecting effectiveness. In times of scarcity, vinegar isn't just for cooking. It can disinfect surfaces, wash fruits and vegetables, work as a cleanser when no detergents are available, support provision preservation through pickling, and even help neutralize odors and reduce bacteria in the living space. A bottle of white vinegar can replace many other products without the fear of expiration. Preserving vinegar is not about cooking better, but about having a substance that protects provisions and your living environment during difficult times when conveniences suddenly become luxuries. Are you using pure white vinegar or mixed vinegar? How many bottles of true long-duration vinegar do you have in your kitchen? 6. Baking soda, multi-purpose soda, bicarbonate. If white vinegar is your close sanitizer, then baking soda is like a multitask technician, always working behind the scenes to handle small problems you usually ignore. Normally, it just sits quietly in a corner of the kitchen for baking, but in emergencies, it can replace antacids, replace cleaning products, replace fruit wash, and even replace the deodorizer you use every day. The strength of baking soda comes from its chemical nature. Sodium bicarbonate, an inorganic compound that contains no water, does not feed bacteria, does not mold, and does not decompose like provisions. It only reacts when exposed to acid or heat, and when dry, it is almost motionless over duration. That is why, if preserved properly, baking soda does not age, does not weaken, and does not deteriorate. It just sits there, always ready when you need it. But its strong odor-absorbing ability is exactly what causes many individuals to unintentionally ruin its value. Preserving baking soda near onions, garlic, laundry detergent, soap, or dishwashing liquid for just a few weeks will leave you with a box of baking soda that can no longer be used for provisions. It doesn't deteriorate, but it becomes full of odors, and anything related to cooking can no longer use it. That's why baking soda is only truly everlasting when kept sealed, dry, and separated, one for culinary use and one for cleaning. In a life lacking conveniences, a bit of baking soda can replace an entire cabinet of chemicals, reduce stomach acid when no medicine is available, clean fruits when water is no longer safe, deodorize refrigerators, shoes, and trash cans, or combined with vinegar to create a survival cleaner strong enough to clean many surfaces without causing toxicity. It's no longer just an ingredient for baking. It is a packet of life skills compressed into white powder, harmless, never expiring, just waiting for you to know how to use it correctly. Are you preserving your baking soda in a sealed jar, or do you still leave it open by the sink thinking it's only for baking? 7. White rice. In long-duration provision preservation, if you had to choose one staple that can feed individuals for years, not days, white rice always comes first. It's inexpensive, doesn't require complicated preparation, and in times of limited fresh provisions, just one bag of white rice can keep a household alive. What makes white rice last so long is not because it's rich in nutrients, but because it lacks the very thing that makes provisions deteriorate easily: oil. Brown rice has a bran layer that contains fat, and fat always oxidizes over duration, quickly creating a rancid, sharp smell that degrades the rice in a short period. White rice, after being thoroughly milled, has almost no natural oils left. No oils mean no environment for bacteria and mold to grow, so white rice can remain durable for decades without freezing or preservatives. The error most individuals make is not in purchasing rice, but in preserving it. Rice easily absorbs odors, so if preserved with onions, garlic, pepper, curry, or in a damp container, it won't deteriorate, but the smell will ruin the value of the entire reserve. White rice only needs to be kept dry, clean, sealed, and away from strong spices, and that is enough to extend its lifespan. In times of scarcity, white rice can turn into porridge when water is limited, become regular rice when energy is needed, or combined with beans to create a meal with enough nutrition even without meat or fish. It's not just provisions. It's the feeling of being able to consume normally on abnormal days. A properly preserved bag of rice can last longer than the individual who keeps it. Are you preserving your rice in a sack, a wooden container, or have you already switched to airtight preservation suitable for true long-duration prepping? 8. Canned meat. When the refrigerator has no power, when grocery stores are closed, or when fresh meat becomes a luxury, canned meat is the rare source of protein that still survives and nourishes the body as if nothing had happened. In long-duration preservation, there is no provision that is simultaneously energy-dense, safe, and long-lasting the way canned meat is. What allows canned meat to last for many years is not the meat itself, but the way it is processed. The meat is cooked at very high temperatures and then sealed in a completely airtight environment without oxygen. Bacteria cannot survive after the heat processing, and without oxygen, mold and microorganisms cannot grow because all conditions for biological decomposition are removed. The meat in the can is almost placed into a motionless state. Its quality may decline over duration, but it remains safe to consume. However, many individuals misunderstand expiration dates. The date on the label only describes when the meat is at its best quality, not when it deteriorates. Canned meat can still be safe for years afterward as long as the can is intact, not swollen, not rusted, and not deeply dented. The problem is not in the provisions, but in the packaging. When the can is damaged, air and bacteria can enter, and that is when the provisions truly become dangerous. In times of scarcity, canned meat does more than provide protein, fat, and energy. It keeps us from panicking. With just a can opener and without complicated cooking, you already have a meal strong enough to keep going. Canned meat is not a snack you purchase and forget. It is a reserved source of strength that anyone who prepares properly should have. How many cans in your home right now are intact, not dented, not rusted? Are you preserving enough for everyone in your household? 8. Dry pasta. If white rice is basic survival, then dry pasta is the morale provision during difficult days. It's easy to cook, easy to consume, suitable for all ages, and incredibly versatile. From spaghetti and fusilli to penne, each shape makes meals feel varied even when ingredient options are running out. Dry pasta lasts a long duration, not because of preservatives, but because the key factor that makes provisions deteriorate, moisture, has been removed. Once pasta is dried to a very low moisture level, bacteria and mold simply cannot survive. No water means no habitat, no decomposition. If preserved properly, pasta is practically immortal, only changing in quality over duration rather than becoming dangerous like fresh provisions. Yet, many individuals preserve pasta in ways that ruin its value. Keeping it in paper packaging for too long, leaving it in humid places, or placing it near strong-smelling spices that it absorbs. The pasta won't go bad, but it will lose its natural flavor and become brittle. To truly preserve pasta long duration, all it needs is to stay dry, avoid humidity, and be kept in airtight containers or sturdy preservation bags. In times of scarcity, dry pasta can transform based on whatever ingredients are left. With just a little salt, oil, or canned vegetables, you still obtain a satisfying meal. Add beans, canned meat, or even a bit of hard cheese, and the nutritional value increases significantly without the need for advanced cooking skills. Pasta isn't just fast provisions. It's provisions that preserve normalcy during abnormal times, preventing meals from becoming repetitive and exhausting. Are you preserving your pasta in supermarket packaging, or have you transferred it into airtight containers for long-duration preservation? 10. Dry beans. If canned meat is the open and consume protein source, dry beans are the long-lasting nutrition supply. One of the rare provisions that can replace meat and protein while lasting for decades without refrigeration or preservatives. Throughout difficult periods in history, beans were the staple that helped individuals survive famine, war, and drought. Dry beans are durable because of their extremely low moisture content and the fact that they do not contain natural oils like many other seeds. No moisture, no fat means bacteria, mold, and insects have no environment to grow. Beans don't rot, don't go rancid, and barely decompose over duration. The only real change is hardness. Older beans take longer to soften when cooked, but they still retain the same nutritional value. However, beans are only indefinite when preserved correctly. The most common error is keeping beans in paper bags near humidity or directly on a cool, damp floor. Once moisture seeps in, beans may sprout or mold, and even a small patch of mold can ruin the entire supply. Dry beans need a sealed, dry environment away from direct light and separate from provisions with strong odors. During hard times, a pot of beans cooked with just water and salt provides complete nutrition, including protein, fiber, and minerals. Combined with rice, pasta, or canned vegetables, beans become the cheapest, cleanest, and most durable protein source any prepared household should have. Are you preserving your dry beans in bags, airtight containers, or specialized preservation bags? 11. Rolled oats. In long-duration preservation, if rice and beans are the nutritional foundation, then rolled oats are the breakfast of stability. They don't require much water to cook, don't take much energy to prepare, are rich in fiber and vitamins, and are filling even during times of shortage. A container of oats can become porridge, bread, energy bars, or even replace a full meal when fresh provisions disappear. What makes rolled oats last so long lies in how they are processed. Oats are steamed, then flattened and dried to the point where bacteria, mold, or insects cannot develop if preserved properly. They also don't contain as much natural oil as other whole grains, so they don't turn rancid over duration. No moisture, low fat, extremely stable. That's why oats don't need preservatives yet still last for decades. However, this seemingly simple provision can be easily destroyed by one small factor: moisture. Just a few dampened flakes can cause mold to spread through the entire container, and mold in grains is unacceptable because fungal toxins cannot be removed by cooking. Rolled oats are only truly indefinite when kept sealed, dry, away from light, and not preserved alongside strong-smelling provisions. When options are limited, oats cooked with water and a little sugar or powdered milk still provide enough energy and nutrition to begin an abnormal day in the most normal way. Are you preserving your oats in the original bag, or have you moved them into an airtight container for long-duration preservation? 12. Powdered milk. When fresh provisions become scarce, when meat, milk, and vegetables turn into luxuries, powdered milk acts like a compressed reserve of nutrition. It can replace fresh milk and provide protein, calcium, fat, vitamins, and minerals, nutrients the body cannot produce on its own, especially for children, the elderly, and the sick. A single scoop of diluted powdered milk may not be a full meal, but it's enough to keep the body from weakening when other sources of nutrition disappear. Powdered milk can last for decades, not because it's full of preservatives, but because it has been completely dehydrated. With nearly zero moisture, bacteria cannot survive, and the fats in the milk are stabilized in dry form, preventing rapid oxidation like in fresh milk. When preserved in a sealed bag or airtight container, powdered milk doesn't deteriorate, doesn't turn rancid. It only gradually loses aroma over duration, but remains safe to consume. What causes powdered milk to go bad is not duration, but air. Once the container is opened and moisture enters, the powder will clump and can easily develop mold. At that point, it cannot be saved, even if cooked or roasted. Powdered milk is only truly indefinite when kept sealed away from sunlight and separated from strong-smelling provisions. When everything becomes hard to purchase, one container of powdered milk can become breakfast for oats, nutrition for a child, energy for someone ill, and peace of mind for the entire household. Is your powdered milk still in its original bag? Or have you transferred it into an airtight container for proper long-duration preservation? Conclusion: these 12 provisions aren't meant to be purchased and forgotten. They are life support, helping you and your household stay calm when everything outside becomes uncertain. No panic, no dependence, just preparation done right starting now. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss essential information on survival, nutrition, and long-duration provision preservation. Know ahead. Prepare early. Live proactively. Are you ready to move forward with confidence?